We've all been there, walking into the store, expecting to pick up our usual grocery staples, only to find empty shelves where our favorite items used to be. But what if I told you this could start happening more often? There are 8 essential foods that are showing troubling signs of disappearing, and it's not just a coincidence. The craziest part? No one's talking about it. The government isn't giving us the heads up, leaving families clueless about what's really going on. These aren't luxury items or niche treats we're talking about. They're everyday essentials we rely on to keep pantries stocked and meals on the table. Yet these staples might vanish without warning, leaving many scrambling to adapt. Why is this happening? What's behind the shortages? And most importantly, how can you prepare before it's too late? Stick with us, because we're breaking down the must-know details on these 8 foods, why they could be at risk, and what you can do to protect yourself against future scarcity. This might be one of the most important lists you'll hear today, so don't wait until these foods are gone to regret not acting sooner. Let's get into it. 1. Sugar. When you think of sugar, it's probably one of those things you assume will always be there. But the reality? Global sugar shortages are no joke, and they're becoming more of a problem than you might realize. Whether it's for something as simple as sweetening your morning coffee or making jam with fresh summer fruits, sugar plays a bigger role in your life than you might think. And here's the kicker. It's one of the first items to disappear during a food shortage. Why is this happening? One major factor is unpredictable weather. Events like El Niño and droughts are hitting hard, especially in major sugar-producing countries like Brazil. And when the yields from sugarcane shrink, the result is obvious: less sugar to go around. But that's not the whole story. Some of these same producers also divert a portion of their sugarcane harvest to create ethanol, a key fuel alternative. That leaves even less sugar for the market, causing prices to skyrocket. Add global shipping disruptions to the mix, and things can quickly spiral from bad to worse. Unlike some foods, sugar is actually pretty easy to store for the long term, which is great news for those who want to stay ahead of the curve. Granulated sugar, as long as it's kept dry and in a cool environment, doesn't spoil. You can use airtight containers, seal it in Mylar bags with silica gel packs for protection against moisture, or even divide it into vacuum-sealed pouches for small, easy-to-rotate portions. The point is, a little planning can give you peace of mind. Now, some people switch to alternatives like honey, maple syrup, or agave. Those are great options, but they come with their own challenges. For example, honey crystallizes over time, and syrups often need refrigeration after opening. The beauty of granulated sugar is its long shelf life and versatility, making it a must-have for any pantry. Here's the harsh truth, though. Don't wait until sugar disappears from the shelves to stock up. By the time it becomes a headline, you're bound to face price hikes, strict rationing, or even empty stores. Start small, keep a modest stock at home, and consider cutting back on sugar use to make what you have last longer. But if you love baking or preserving food, take this as your signal to grab more than just a single bag. Sugar shortages happen fast, and trust me, they're not fun to deal with when you're unprepared. 2. Orange juice. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that your favorite morning glass of orange juice has become a luxury. Sounds dramatic, right? But it's already happening, and the reasons behind it are piling up. Citrus greening, devastating hurricanes, and relentless droughts are teaming up to wreak havoc on orchards, particularly in Florida, one of the largest orange-producing regions in the world. Farmers have been battling citrus greening for years. This disease doesn't just damage individual trees, it slashes yields across entire groves. To make matters worse, the few trees that survive are often uprooted by vicious storms or suffer from flooding that kills their roots. What does this mean for you and your wallet? Orange juice is becoming harder to produce, which drives up prices and shrinks the size of those familiar cartons. It's not just about paying more, though. Some grocery stores are starting to limit how many cartons you can buy in one trip. Yes, your simple bottle of OJ could become borderline impossible to find without a strategy. Luckily, there are ways to prepare, so you're not caught off guard. Stock up on shelf-stable options like juice boxes or canned orange juice. Those have long shelf lives and can help tide you over in case of another shortage. Another great option is freezing orange juice concentrate, which can last for months in a freezer. It's not as convenient as fresh, squeezed, but it ensures you'll still enjoy that orange flavor without paying a fortune when shortages hit. Now, for those of you who rely on orange juice for its vitamin C punch, there's no need to panic. Powdered drink mixes or even pure vitamin C tablets are excellent alternatives. They're inexpensive, easy to store, and get the job done nutritionally. While they might not taste the same as fresh juice, having a substitute can save you from scrambling the next time store shelves are empty. If you want to take things into your own hands, consider growing a dwarf citrus tree at home. It's not foolproof, especially if you live in a colder climate, but for those in warmer regions, it could be a fun strategy to stay stocked with citrus. The bottom line, don't wait until the news starts buzzing about orange juice shortages. Freeze some concentrates, stack up some powdered mixes, and think about backups like grapefruit or tangerine juice. A little planning now can save you a lot of hassle when everyone else is panic buying the last bottles. Stay ahead of the curve. Brie, cocoa and chocolate. Imagine this, you grab your favorite chocolate bar off the shelf, only to realize it's smaller than the last time you bought it, but the price? No change. Sound familiar? That's shrinkflation in action, a sneaky way companies deal with rising costs. And if you love chocolate as much as most people do, this is where things start to get real. Why is this happening? It all traces back to cocoa, the key ingredient behind that rich, irresistible flavor we all adore. Here's where it gets concerning. West Africa, the region responsible for most of the world's cocoa supply, is facing crisis after crisis. Unpredictable weather patterns, diseases that ravage cocoa trees, and political instability are all hammering production. When these challenges hit, cocoa becomes harder to source, and candy makers are stuck with skyrocketing costs. That means you, the everyday chocolate lover, are paying more for smaller portions. It's frustrating, and if cocoa shortages keep up, chocolate could easily turn from an affordable treat into a luxury item. But don't worry, there's a way to stay ahead of the curve. If chocolate's your go-to comfort food, consider stockpiling bars with higher cocoa content, like those 70% and above. These bars generally last longer because they have fewer perishable ingredients. To maximize shelf life, store them in a cool, dark place around 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. This prevents that annoying whitish coating, known as bloom, that can form when chocolate gets too warm. Another great preparation strategy is to invest in cocoa powder. Sealed in airtight containers, it can stay fresh for over a year, especially if kept in a cool environment. Cocoa powder gives you versatility too, whether it's baking your favorite desserts or mixing up a homemade cup of hot cocoa. If chocolate does indeed become scarce or overpriced, this little stash could make all the difference. And if the cocoa supply chain collapses altogether? Don't panic, there are alternatives like carob or coconut-based sweets. They're not quite the same, but they can scratch the itch when chocolate isn't an option. The key here is having a backup plan. Rotate your stash to ensure it stays fresh, freeze small bars if needed, and stay ahead of price hikes by keeping an eye on cocoa supply news. Whether it's a storm, a massive grid outage, or a squeeze in global cocoa markets, having chocolate on hand isn't just a luxury. It's a morale booster that can make tough times feel just a bit sweeter. Or rice. Here's a fact that might shock you. One of the most dependable and affordable foods on the planet could turn into a hard-to-find luxury item within weeks, all thanks to international policies and unpredictable weather. We're talking about rice, yes, the same rice that makes its way into sushi, stir-fries, soups, and even sweet desserts. But what happens when your go-to grain vanishes from store shelves without warning? It's closer to reality than you might think. If you've been paying attention to recent food crisis warnings, you've likely seen headlines about rice export bans. India, the world's largest rice exporter, is notorious for halting shipments to protect its domestic markets and control rising prices for its own citizens. And guess what? Every time India or another major supplier pulls this move, it sends global buyers into a frenzy. Importers hoard shipments, prices shoot through the roof, and wholesalers pass all those hikes straight to you. That cheap bag of rice you've always taken for granted suddenly costs double or even triple what it used to. Weather disasters also play a starring role in this chaos. Droughts and floods can devastate vital rice-growing regions, wiping out precious harvests and leaving farmers scrambling to salvage whatever crops survive. This double punch of policy and nature is why having a secure stash of rice at home is one of the smartest moves you can make right now. White rice, in particular, has some serious staying power. When vacuum sealed in smaller, manageable portions with oxygen absorbers, it can last over 5 years in your pantry, provided it's stored in a cool, dry spot. If you're a fan of variety, you can mix things up with jasmine, basmati, or even wild rice. Just rotate your supply regularly by incorporating it into meals to keep it fresh. Keep in mind, though, brown rice, while delicious and nutritious, has a shorter shelf life because of its higher oil content. If a major rice shortage hits, having alternatives like quinoa, barley, or sorghum in your back pocket can save the day. These grains may not taste exactly like rice, but they work in many of the same recipes and could become lifesavers when traditional rice is hard to come by. Don't wait until the internet is flooded with videos of empty shelves and frenzied shoppers. Check your pantry now. If your staple supply is looking low, stock up before panic buying begins. Staying one step ahead means you'll never have to ration meals or fight over that last bag in the store. 5. Eggs and milk. Picture this. You head to the store to grab a carton of eggs or a gallon of milk, but the shelves are bare. No matter where you look, they're gone. And the few stores that still have some in stock, their prices have skyrocketed overnight. It might sound extreme, but this exact scenario is already playing out across the globe when avian flu strikes, or when the dairy industry faces its own crises. These staples are far more vulnerable than we think. When avian flu sweeps through large poultry farms, it can take out millions of chickens in mere weeks. Supermarkets selling eggs get hit hard and consumers are left scrambling. Prices can double or triple seemingly out of nowhere, leaving households paying far more than they budgeted for something as basic as breakfast. Similarly, the dairy industry has its fair share of trouble. Viral outbreaks and illnesses in cattle can lead to plummeting milk production, driving up costs and draining shelves just as fast. And once the supply disappears, it can take months for production to recover. The good news? You can get ahead of these shortages with a little preparation. One of the smartest strategies is to diversify how you use eggs and milk in your everyday cooking. Powdered milk, for example, is an excellent alternative that lasts much longer when stored properly. Seal it with an oxygen absorber, and you've got a product that can stay good for over a year. Freeze-dried eggs are another game-changing option. Packed in Mylar bags, these can last several years without refrigeration and work perfectly for baked goods or scrambled egg breakfasts when fresh supplies are unavailable. Prepping extends beyond just substitutions. Some people reduce fresh egg consumption by including more protein alternatives like beans, tofu, or lentils in their diets. It's a simple shift that stretches your supply and ensures that when you do need fresh eggs, you'll have them on hand. Powdered and shelf-stable options are also budget-friendly, sparing you from paying inflated, crisis-driven prices. Want another tip? Stay informed. Keep an eye on news about avian flu outbreaks or potential dairy shortages. These situations often come with a heads-up before shelves are cleared. By buying a little extra milk or eggs in advance, you can skip the long lines and the panic runs. Stockpile thoughtfully, rotate your inventory regularly, and stay prepared. When the next wave of shortages hits, you'll have exactly what you need without the stress. 6. Canned tuna. Think canned tuna is just another boring pantry item? Think again. When it comes to stockpiling for food shortages, this humble can is a powerhouse. Tuna is lightweight, packed with protein, and has a long shelf life, making it an absolute essential in any prepper's food stash. But here's the kicker. Recent years have shown us that even canned tuna isn't immune to disappearing from shelves overnight, and the reasons behind it might surprise you. First, there's the issue of recalls. You've probably heard stories of entire batches of tuna being pulled due to suspected contamination. When something like this happens, brands that were once a household staple suddenly vanish, leaving shoppers scrambling to find alternatives. But recalls aren't the only danger here. Environmental changes, like rising ocean temperatures, are shifting tuna populations further from their usual fishing areas. That means fewer hauls, smaller quotas, and less tuna making its way to store shelves. And as the supply dries up, prices go up too. Then there are the logistical nightmares. Labor strikes at ports or snarled shipping routes can add to the chaos, slowing down deliveries and leaving shelves looking emptier than usual. The result? Canned tuna becomes a hot commodity, and prices climb even higher as demand soars. Here's how you can stay ahead of the game. Don't just rely on tuna alone. Stock up on a variety of canned fish. Sardines, mackerel, salmon, and even clams are fantastic options to round out your protein reserves. Mackerel, for example, packs the same protein punch as tuna and stores just as well. A diverse supply means you can rotate through your stock more effectively so nothing spoils or goes stale. When buying canned tuna, pay attention to updates from your favorite brands. Did you know that one manufacturer can sometimes supply tuna for multiple labels? A single recall could take several brands off the market all at once. Learn to spot red flags like bulging cans, rust, or strange odors, so you know if something's gone bad. The beauty of canned tuna lies in its versatility. It's a ready-to-eat protein source that lasts years and doesn't require refrigeration or fancy cooking. Don't wait for a mad rush at the store when shelves are running bare. By stocking up early and planning smartly, you'll avoid panic buying and confidently enjoy this pantry staple through any food crisis. 7. Olive oil. Here's the deal with olive oil. It's no longer just the go-to healthy cooking staple many of us take for granted. It's becoming yet another victim of extreme weather patterns and global supply chain chaos. If you've seen the headlines, you already know that massive droughts across Mediterranean regions have been hammering olive groves in ways the industry hasn't seen in decades. Entire crops are failing in key areas like Spain and Italy, and that's sending the price of extra virgin olive oil straight through the roof. What used to be a reasonably priced kitchen essential is now starting to feel like a luxury item. And it's not just the droughts. Picture this, you combine climate struggles with shipping delays or trade disputes, and suddenly, arriving shipments are held up or reduced. The grocery store shelves that do manage to stay stocked? They're displaying bottles at jaw-dropping prices. For anyone who loves cooking, switching to cheaper oils isn't always an option. The flavor, health benefits, and quality of extra virgin olive oil just can't be matched by most alternatives. You're probably wondering, what's the plan here? Well, the good news is you can outsmart these price hikes and shortages. First, consider cutting back on how much olive oil you're burning through. High oleic canola oil or avocado oil are solid alternatives to complement your supply. But if you're determined to stick to that rich, distinctive olive oil flavor, here's some key advice. Buy in bulk. Large tins or bottles bought during stable pricing periods are lifesavers. Store them in cool, dark conditions to preserve quality, and transfer manageable amounts into dark glass bottles for your kitchen use. This keeps your olive oil fresh for longer and avoids constant trips to the store for overpriced replacements. Want to really stay ahead of the game? Start keeping tabs on olive harvesting reports from major producing countries. A strong harvest might lower prices temporarily, giving you the perfect opportunity to stock up. But a grim report or news of new droughts can spike prices overnight. This kind of foresight ensures you're never caught off guard. Finally, remember that olive oil, even in ideal storage, has its limits. Rotate your supply every few months, especially if you're buying in bulk. Running out in the middle of a supply chain meltdown or weather-induced shortage could leave you stuck relying on pricier, less healthy substitutes. Stay prepped and ahead of the curve. 8. Bottled water. Here's something few people realize until it's too late. Water isn't just a necessity. It's also one of the first things to vanish when disaster strikes. Droughts are hitting large portions of the United States harder than ever. And it's not just small towns feeling the squeeze. Urban areas are now dealing with water restrictions when reservoirs run dry. And when word gets out, store shelves are wiped clean. Gallons of bottled water? Gone in a flash. The chaos ramps up even faster if social media stirs up news about potential contamination scares. Many overlook water in their preparedness plans. They stock up on canned goods and dry foods, but forget about what's arguably even more critical. That is, until the tap runs dry or the water quality is unsafe. And in those moments, the panic sets in. This is why anyone serious about staying prepared needs a solid water strategy. Yes, bottled water is convenient, but it comes with its own set of challenges. It's bulky, heavy, and the plastic containers don't last forever. If stored improperly in hot or sunny areas, they can even degrade, leaving you with a questionable supply. Here's the smarter move. Combine bottled water storage with more sustainable solutions. Invest in gravity-fed filters or countertop purification systems that turn tap water into clean, drinkable water. These systems reduce your dependence on single-use plastic and save you a ton of space. If you don't already have one, consider starting a rainwater collection system. It's a fantastic way to supplement your supply, though you'll need to filter or treat it to ensure it's safe. For those relying on cases of bottled water, remember to rotate your stock every few months. Watch for sales and restock when supplies are plentiful to avoid price surges during a crisis. Hardcore survivalists often keep some bottled water for emergencies, but their real safeguard lies in purification tablets, filters, and long-term collection solutions. Imagine what happens during a devastating heatwave or an extended drought. You head to the store, only to face empty shelves. That's a nightmare scenario many already lived through. Don't leave your family vulnerable. A 55-gallon water barrel in your garage, a high-quality purifier, and a few basic tools mean the difference between panic and peace of mind. With droughts only expected to get worse, it's time to make water storage a priority, starting today.